Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. With me this morning is Adam Woodward, as I promised on my podcast that he would be joining us. And I'm very excited to have Adam. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks.
Yeah, so you and I met briefly, actually. So Lisa Gibson introduced us, and she's an amazing gal, and she had nothing but nice things to say about you. And then I got an opportunity to meet with you, and you had this really cool story. And I was like, you need to come on my podcast and tell this story, because it's amazing the things that you have overcome and where you are today. Because I think what happens is a lot of people get into these ruts and they don't realize that there is something on the other side.
Yeah, thanks. I've never done a podcast, so you'll have to beat me up a bit and tell me what to do. Yeah, I think we all have a story. I think we all have a resilience or a salvation story. Mine has been a bit colorful, but I tend to lead with that too. I'm the loud kid in the room, sort of thing. So yeah, it's simple. It's just trying to keep on keeping on, I guess.
So can you do me a favor and can you just speak up a little bit for me?
Yeah, I sure can. I'm using an old headset because I had to figure it out. So how's that?
So good.
Yeah.
Just hold the mic closer to your mouth. That's what a lot of people do. You ever see the TikToks where they hold it to their mouth?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
There you go. Perfect. No, and so it's basically a pod. So every podcast is different. Some podcasts, people will ask you interview questions. I'm not that girl. I'm the person that's like, just tell me your story, because we never really got a chance to hear your whole story, and I just got bits and pieces of it, and I was like,
so where do you want to start?
Tell me your story. Like, this is just you and me having a conversation. Tell me your story. I'm fascinated.
Yeah. I try and kind of simplify it and lower the expectations of it. I've been sharing and journaling lately as I've been going through a bit of self-healing that I don't really know how I started. There's one view where my mom who was an addict and an alcoholic and a streetwalker. I was told that my mom jumped out of a car and trying to hurt herself, and I was born. And I don't know how accurate that is, but the person who told me was pretty, has good integrity, I would call it. And so there's no baby pictures in my life. I've never seen any, Adam baby pictures. And so I tend to believe what people tell me because I really don't know the first few years. Dad wasn't around. I think my mom, as I understand it, had kind of hitchhiked through Europe and met Dad, and Dad tried to be a part of my original life in Calgary, but I don't know that story. Years ago, I went and tried to find him, only to find out that I think he passed away in an addiction shelter in Nanaimo. But as a little guy, I was pretty, I got up and I looked at the world around me and I tried to find food. And that led to running away at around 9 years old to my grandparents. My grandmother and grandfather had always been pretty active in my life, trying to get my attention to say, hey, if you're having a tough go, you can always live with us. And I would spend weekends with them. And when I would get there, it would be safe and it would be clean, and I didn't have to forage for food or go find food. I could just find, I had a room. And so one day, I remember distinctively, I came home. My mom was a binger, so she was home. She was working at a law firm, and I came home, and she was home, and that was always a bad sign. That was like the clouds were forming. And so I went in the back, and she made me my most favorite sandwich. And I remembered this feeling in my 9-year-old heart going, you got to go. And I got on my bike, I left and went back to school. And my old teacher in grade 3 came out and said, what's going on? And I just said, I got to go. And that led me to move in with my grandparents. And it was tough on them. My mom was my grandparents' daughter. They obviously loved her, and addiction was a big part of our family even back then. And, it was a tough transition, and they were great. I had a room that I could shut the door with. I had food. Food became a big part of my story, still is. I tend to enjoy food way too much. And, I lived with my grandparents, and, they did what they thought was best. And they got me into every little sport they could just to keep busy. Got into school and learned some normal behavior. Like I didn't have to wash my clothes at 9 years old, and I didn't have to ask for food for my friends, and just started growing up a little bit, and got into junior high. My grandmother got quite sick and passed away, and that broke my granddad's heart. My mom had run away and joined the circus years after I had left. And so it was me and my grandpa, and he was a hard living. He was a welder, 65 years, grade 5 education or grade 9 education, smoked a pack of smokes a day. And that was a tough life. Like him and I, we didn't know how to communicate the way that I've learned to communicate now. But he was a great person for me, and he was in my corner and always there. And he was the fuel, I would call it, the foundation that I needed to explore things in my life. And one of those things that I decided to explore was golf. And I was pretty good. I wasn't the best, but I found a way with golf to find a post-secondary opportunity. My mother's brother and my grandfather's son, my uncle, and his wife, my aunt, they had taken me in bits and pieces. My uncle had a huge part of my life. I still have so many things a part of Adam that I learned from my uncle, and he's a very successful businessman. And so they started to play a very big role, and I lived with them for some time when my granddad was struggling with his own addictions. And anyways, fast forward the story. I got on an airplane, went down to Kentucky, spent 3.5 years there, and played on a golf team, or tried to. It wasn't the best, but I certainly took full advantage of the opportunity down there, and with school, with learning about U.S. politics, the U.S. way of living, you name it. And in my third year, my granddad passed. He died of cancer too, and probably more of a broken heart and loneliness than that. And I just, a switch flipped for me. Losing my mom probably was hard on my heart. I hadn't really processed that through yet. Losing my grandmother was very difficult, and then losing my grandfather was kind of the tipping point for me. So I came home, I tapped a buddy on his shoulder, and we ended up backpacking through Europe and the Middle East in 1999. And I remember every time we got on a train, I'd find a way to just kind of bury away, and I just would have waves of grief and journaling and kind of figuring out where I was at in the world and what I was doing, where I was going. And came home, decided not to pursue education, to the frustration of my uncle, rightfully so, and my aunt. And decided not to pursue much with golf. Kind of figured out that I wasn't ever going to do much with golf, and I didn't want to be a golf pro. I didn't want to be a Canadian golf pro working a few months of the year. And started working at Earl's with the tutelage of a franchise owner there, and a great community of friends that we'd all kind of grown up together through the Earl's system when we part-time worked through high school and later on. And that led to a chance encounter with Paul Vickers, who was the founder and big fella at Cowboys. And he hired me on the spot. He said, "This kid, you got to come and help me run my club." So went down there and ended up running Cowboys for 5 years. And so it was an interesting trajectory. You take this kid who's hurting and who's got predisposition to alcoholism and other isms, and you put him at the VIP door of Cowboys, this multi-million-dollar place to go drinking, and fireworks, right? And I started really going on fire. I hadn't started working on myself. I hadn't figured out the pain where that needed to go. I got into some goofy relationships, and it was a tough time, but a really great time too, because I met probably everybody in the city of Calgary at that time, including the Calgary Flames, who were on a playoff run, and was just like an incredible moment of self-discovery and meeting people. And my uncle stepped in. I got involved in a relationship. I decided to drink the tequila warm one night and threw a TV off the second balcony. And so that was the first run into treatment. I went to the 1835 house running a nightclub and was sober for about a year. That place is still a special place in my heart. I did some other kind of a deeper therapy stuff to try and figure out where I was at, but the fundamental issue was the boozing. I grabbed a girl from Cowboys who I hired and decided to, get a house and play family, and was getting guided to get out of that business before I turned into a vampire or a dysfunctional alcoholic, and had been involved with the markets my whole life. My uncle obviously had kind of taught me a few things about the market and stuff that I could do, and decided to go become a broker. And young wife, young son on the way, and no idea what I was getting into with the brokerage business, but had a hustle factor, this is something that I wanted to do. And I had this, I've always had want to learn. I want to dive into stuff and get to understand what things are. and learn it. So I had this hustle factor. I had this incredible way to connect with people. I had an ability to drink better than most. And, that makes brokers really good. So grew a book of business from $0 to quite a lot of dollars in the period of 10 years, had 3 kids, coached high school basketball, tried to help out the community with camp programs and raising money for lots of different things, which, I brought on a crew of people that were excited to say yes to me, and everybody, we started making impacts in Forest Lawn, Father Lacombe, all the different Northeast schools, did shoe programs, became an ego thing, like look at how good we're doing, and I found that the more I would show the world how good I was thinking I was doing, the more pain I was feeling. My youngest son was born. There was a difficulty there. I realized my relationship wasn't built on the proper foundation. I was a bad husband. I had money that I didn't know what to do with. I was confused by it all. I had no guidance. I didn't allow myself to have any guidance either. I'm not blaming it on others. I was confused, I was hurting, and I was rich. And I was running Instagram accounts showing the world how many basketball games we could win in Forest Lawn. And it was just a complete paradox, like this outward persona of like, look at me, this is wonderful. I'm going to touch this and it's going to be beautiful. And then inside I'd go home and I'd be like, I don't even want to go home. And I have these 3 little boys running around. I'm like, I don't even know how to be a dad. What do they want? What does a dad do? I had a granddad vision. I had an uncle vision, but I didn't have a dad. I was terrified of coming home. And it all manifested into December of 2015. And I'd lost my wife. I'd been kicked out of the house. The fires were burning with my business. I had been running this crazy speed and couldn't even catch my breath. And then it dawned on me from my uncles, both my mom's brothers, to go get help before I died. And that started a path to which I'm on today, 9 years and a couple months, 6 months ago, of sobriety and an attempt to live a better life. And that's, there's a wonderful B part to that story. I came home in May of 2016. I had a backpack that I borrowed from the treatment center, and I had a little accommodation at a sober living facility, which was more like a halfway house. And I got kicked out of there for cleaning it. And the Oxford House group, they didn't like that. They didn't like that there was an alcoholic in there that in recovery that wanted clean conditions and wanted rules and accountability. I was like Captain Recovery, and I was so into it that I got asked to leave. So I was kind of homeless for a while. I had friends that I could couch surf, and found a place, hustled this little rental to be a sober house so that I could find a way to be in and around closer to my kids, who I was starting to have a relationship with. They were coming back. It wasn't working, so I could play basketball with them or hockey with them. I started working in the moving business. I got some sober guys doing that. One second. Hey, guys, I just need the kitchen. I got little kids running around. Started my sober house, and man, we had a great time. It was a bunch of sober guys and little kids running around trying to figure out life and make lunches and go play basketball and watch hockey games. And I did the work finally at 40, I guess, to really look at my heart and say, man, I got some stuff going on here that I need to kind of figure out. Or didn't think the drinking would take it out. I just think I wouldn't want to live. Like I was hurting. Mm-hmm. And that led me down a path to where we are today, I guess, and connecting. This is the first podcast I've ever done. I'm starting to do a little bit of writing. I've done some beta tests on writing about my journey. I am no different than any other fellow in recovery trying to find his way. I might have a little bit more excitement around it or a bit more color around it than some, and then also not. There's much better people out there than me and better stories than me that can be shared. But sober house and little kids, and then decided was going to church and found a gal. I looked at her. She had 3. I had 3, and said, let's try it out. And it was tough. It was tough to put a household together of 6. My 2 boys, I went through some mental health challenges that were really difficult for our family. I sit here on July 8th, and everybody's alive. Our family doesn't look the conventional way. We were a moving, traveling show of fun. And, I just opened my heart to meeting people and showing up, and met you. I distinctively remember that I was feeling this infection in my jaw, and I just out of it, and I didn't want to meet anybody, but had this pull to kind of sit with you, and checked out your podcasts and had a good chance to connect with you. So
Well, thanks.
that's
So
the
we're
quick
gonna,
version.
and it is, and I appreciate it, and I know that there's a lot more in it. So I wanted you to get out your whole story because, like you said, you've never done a podcast, and I don't like some people. I'll interrupt and engage and whatnot, but so there's a couple of things. First of all, don't undermine your story. Everybody's story is unique, but other people can resonate with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
for
you
sure.
went through in your life, there's probably a few people that could be like, yeah, I have the same story, but a lot of them don't take the same paths.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I look at things, and I look at someone like you and I go, you need to come on because the addicts out there, the kids that had the shit start right from go, need to hear that there is a better life. That if you choose you and you choose to educate yourself, and when I say educate yourself, I mean educate yourself in your emotions. Sit with them, journal, do the things you need to do to process all of that negativity in your life and turn it into something amazing, because at the end of the day, it falls on your shoulders, nobody else's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, there's a fatalistic flaw to the story. Like a friend of mine, Eli or Stella, can you guys get the dogs? Sorry, we're going to edit that out.
I'm watching the dogs. It's actually quite
Eli or Stella, come here. Grab the dogs. I'm just doing a thing on the video, so I need you to take care of them, please. I need you to take the dogs and just take them in your room for a bit, okay? Thanks. There is a real life element to it too. Yeah, there is. A friend of mine sat me down. He's like, "Woody, why go down that path?" Like when I went away to treatment, I had a lot of legal fires burning, and I think it's been a theory that I hid in treatment, and I think I did. I had this big fire burning in my public person, and I had this heart that was breaking. And I remember when I got to treatment, they took my phone away. They took everything away, but they took my phone away, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's relief." And I never used that phone again. And, for me and my story, where it came from in terms of what I would share today in the context of networking or connecting, is that as I got through the healing part of it, I realized that I was an okay guy. I wasn't a saint, and I'm not the standard to which anybody should hold themselves to be, but that I had people that liked me, that were friends just to like me. And I never had that before. I always thought it was, either a performance, like when I ran away to my grandparents, it was like, well, look at me, I can be a goal scorer and a baseball player and an A+ student. I thought that equated to their endorsement, their love. And then when I went away to university and I had my uncle's family and he was very successful, I was like, well, I've got to be successful to get their attention. And it wasn't true. I couldn't get their attention because they were busy too. And, I was kind of the ugly duckling bumping along all these families. And then I found this community of people that would come down to Cowboys, and they would be like, well, you can buy us drinks. You're the best guy in town. So I thought the relationship was, I got to provide something. And then as a broker, I get clients when I told them that what we would do very well. And for the most part, it did. Sometimes it didn't, but for the most part, it did. So my relationships up until I was 40 years old were transactional for me. And not that anybody's fault, not anyone's fault, but I learned to have to show up for people and provide for something. And I still do it in quirky ways. I'll buy the coffee and I'll compliment first. And I'm very anxious about people accepting me, including my current wife and my children. But at this point in recovery, for me, it was understanding that I'm okay just being an Adam, and that there's going to be some that like me and some that don't. I came back one day and I was, man bun, never go through that experience again. And I was literally walking around Calgary trying to find some space to connect with. And I got invited to this men's club at church. And there's a dozen or so. It was a beautiful house and the wine was flowing. I wasn't a part of it. I was certainly the outcast in that room. I looked a lot different than all these other men. They were very successful, or seemed to be. And we did this exercise in this group setting that, what would you leave on your gravestone? And the guy that started it was the guy on my right, and he said, well, I was a good dad. I was a good husband. The next guy goes, yeah, I was a good dad. I was a good husband, and I was a good philanthropist. And the next guy, he went, and he was even better than the other two. And then by the time it got to me, I'm seeing this it was elevated, right? It was like everybody had this beautiful thing that they wanted to share about their person. And it came to me, and they're like, okay, what would you leave on your gravestone? And I was like, my name? And they were all stunned, thinking that I probably had a story of resilience or whatever. And I was like, no, I'd hate the debate of everybody that would show up, because there would be some still today that would be like, he was a bad man. He was a selfish, lying, bad person. And at times I have been. And then there'd be some that'd be like, yeah, but I loved him. He's good. And so I've gotten to this point of just self-acceptance in this place of recovery and maybe a bit of awakening of where I'm going in life. And it helps me get to the next day. And I never had that. So, for people that had a similar upbringing or people that are concerned where they are in their recovery or having some challenges, my only thought is just be you, and somebody's going to love you. I don't know who, but maybe it's your dog, and maybe it's a big community of people, maybe it's friends that you bump into. And once I discovered that people are going to be okay with me, then I got some really wonderful people coming into my life, including yourself.
Well, thank you. But you have to remember, I think the biggest takeaway, and you've said it without saying it, is to love yourself, right? Because believing in yourself and having blind faith is to love yourself. And I know that that's a struggle. In any addict's eyes, that's a struggle, the things they did. Even if people can't forgive them, or even if some people can forgive them, there's a big part of them that doesn't forgive themselves. And
and there's that self thing, right? Like, begin with self, know thyself, all that stuff. Like, my ex-wife called me post-recovery, and a lot of hurt there that I imparted on that human being. And she's like, you never loved me. And I was like, you're correct. I didn't love myself. Like, I don't think I loved the kids. Like, I didn't even like me. I remember sitting at a kitchen table with a woman I was having an affair with, and her mom and the dude, and the one lady's like, the mom goes, God loves you. And I'm like, you don't even know who I am. I'm the most evil person at this table. And I know I love myself today. I journal it and I write myself a little note, and I get a little heart ping every time I do. But I can forgive myself. I can care for myself. I can criticize myself without going down the trapdoor of over-criticization and the dopamine effect of being mean to myself. Mm-hmm. I can be patient with myself. I can tolerate myself. At times, that's tough. I'm a quirky personality. And if I can do that for me, then I can do it for my oldest and my wife and my stepkids and the dog that barks.
But everything happens for a reason, Adam. And a lot of times, because of the way that you came into the world with everything that was going on outside of your control, you're a baby, you can't do anything, right? It's out of your control. Because you came into the world like that, you actually, the way that I see it is that you had to work through that toxicity and drain it from your system, which was the first 20 to 30 years. You were draining that from your system, trying to find some sort of identity in yourself and what you're here to do. And so, which actually leads me to what you do now.
Tim's at the door. Sorry, go ahead.
And I mean, you've said a lot of really positive things when I met you, and you say it even at your meetings about your beautiful wife and her children and your children, and the relationships that you have formulated now with yourself and the people that you care for, that you genuinely love, are amazing. Because without going through all of the things that you went through and then taking the time to reflect, self-acknowledge, and move forward, you wouldn't be in this place. So you've done the work, and you've had people that help you, because you can't do it without people. You can sit there and try all you want. And it's something I always, I bicker with my significant other for. I'm like, you need someone to talk to. And he's like, I don't need anybody. I can do it all. And I'm like, yes, you do. You need people around you that are going to give you the support.
Thanks, buddy.
Right?
Yeah, so, I like that. I don't think I drained any toxicity. I think regardless, my mother introduced me to Tears for Fears.
Love Tears for Fears.
Right? My mother introduced me. I remember distinctively as a little boy going, singing in a car and her singing along. And I am the best car sing-along guys in the world. My mother had a tremendous wit. My mom didn't know how to be a mom, same degree that I didn't know how to be a dad. I probably had some good ideas that I tried my best, and I wasn't the worst dad. I wasn't a very present dad. My mom gave me a tremendous gift, whether the story of the car is true or not, and the memories that I have of that, or some of the other things that have come up, or the boyfriend who we came home to with a shotgun pointed at us, or the fights that would happen, or the police. Like I thought the police were like my buddies. I still do. I still go talk to them because they were always in my house. And that it wasn't toxic. It is the best part of my story, because it gave me a degree of love and care for others and self that I never would have had if that hadn't been a part of my life. And in my recovery journey, and I don't recover out loud very often, but there is an aspect that the worst part of my story is the best part of my story. And it helps me every time I share it, which I'm thankful for. It normalizes just another step for me. It's like, okay, and you're not running away and turning off the thing and the computer hasn't exploded in flames. Like, thank you. And on the journey with others, like somebody told me one day, they're like, go get the book that the guy or the gal has wrote that has done it all alone, all by themselves. Like Steve Jobs or Jack Welch or any of these other world leaders have never come out and said, you know what, I had it figured out from day one. I know exactly what to do. I had some challenges, but I taught myself how to get. I am the result of the community that has loved me, whether that was my mother attempt at first, some interesting people in that community, whether it was my grandparents, whether it was my uncle and my aunt, who I love and miss dearly, whether it was my friends who noticed in high school that I was having difficulties, whether it was guys in university, my fraternity that said, we're going to help this guy find his path. And whether it's people like you that embrace and invite me into the story and to share it, right? And so I'm a big believer and I'm a strong advocate for walking with others because I need it, not because they need it, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, you're the guy that can help me. I'm like, I ain't nothing. I'm hoping that I can spend a bit of time with you and you can help me. And then sometimes those relationships go, sometimes they stay, but anyways.
Fair. And thank you for correcting it, because a lot of people, and so this is what I always do, is I always try and shift it into a situation where I want to see what you're going to come back with. So some people will look at this and they will say what I've said, which is the toxic side of it. And so when you spin it and you say, I don't think it's toxic. I think like what you would consider the bad part is actually the best part, because it gives me an opportunity to reflect. And you're right. Your mother did love you. Your grandmother loved you. All these people loved you the best way they knew how and did what they needed to do. Right. And so a lot of us are so bent on criticizing, and I'm no better. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh, I'm so profound. I can, like, that practice what you preach,
Yeah.
I'm still working on that too,
Yeah, good for you. I've noticed in your podcast, I played them, and I really appreciate what you bring out in people, and you have a warmness to you that probably is the reason your podcasts are doing well, and so I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
The fact for me is, the story or the stuff, I don't want to be a victim, even to the starting point. Yeah, maybe I got some jam. I remember one of my uncles couldn't figure out my alcoholism. Probably some reasons there with respect to his own stuff. And he was like, he's got fetal alcohol syndrome. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I thought it was like the disease, and that I had like a boil on my face, But I got a chance to understand that my difficulties in life were mine, and they were giving me agency to do something with them. And even I haven't figured out everything. I haven't fixed everything. I've still got some good defects, but I'm aware of them. I try and get some feedback from them. Like, hey, like I have this woman in my life who's like, by the way, here's some instant feedback that you're not willing to hear. And I love it. And I never had that. And what I think, if you're listening and if there's some struggle going on, or if there's some self-discovery going on, find the people that are willing to be honest with you. I had a really good run in the business community, but I had people that weren't willing to say no to me. And if they did, they weren't willing to say strong in that no. There was one woman who got in front of me and said, you got a problem, man. This is going to burn you down. And she was walking with another fella who I consider a dear friend. And he was like, dude, it's okay. You guys can come out. He's like, dude, if you want to change the world, you're going to have to stop trying to be whatever you are here. And thanks for grabbing my dog. It's my Blueberry and my Easy.
So good.
And
it's so cute.
These puppies that like to sit at my feet. And those people had the strength to say no to me. And that was the starting point for me to look at it and go, oh, man. And I'm terrified of not getting that anymore. I'm terrified of that feedback being gone. I demand it from myself and from others that I walk with. And I don't like it all the time. It's hard to hear daily what the inventory looks like for you. I have an ex-wife that is she's a good human being. She's always willing to give me some feedback. And that's the stuff I need to hear. And so that's what I demand from people, and that's what they should demand from me.
That's fair, because, and I agree with you. Like, the truth isn't always going to sit well right when we hear it. It's going to kind of like make us squirm a little bit. But I think that the only way to progress as a human and as in relationships is to be honest with each other. And that's where, it's like, do you want to know the fastest way to lose a friend? Just tell them the truth.
Yeah.
I don't like you anymore.
Yeah, I like it, and there's in the truth side of it. Most of that comes from me because I'm pretty critical of myself. I'm terrified of what others think of me. Therefore, I'm terrified of what I think of me. But the world is, we have this loop that I find that can be really difficult to understand, and that I look at Instagram or I look at Facebook or I look outside and I see people where they're at, and I'm like, man, they've got it all. This is really good, and I'm like, instant shame. Man, I don't, right? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough likes or followers or comps or whatever it is to it. It's comparative life, and to say that we don't judge and do that is silly, because we do. But now where I'm at is, with a little bit of prayer and support, is I try and find in like our first discussion, like, let's just get to it. What are you doing? What's good? What's bad? What's working? What's not working? And yeah. Yes, you can have donuts. That's why I got them. Just make sure the dogs don't bark. Have you ever had that podcast where the guy loses it on the dogs? Because that's going to happen today.
It's okay. It's real life. I pride myself on my podcast being real and raw and authentic. So I mean, like, you're just helping that,
Yeah, and to speak to that, water finds its level. So what are we scared of, right? What is the ultimate fear of a Lisa giving me feedback, or Erin, my wife, saying, hey, you know what, this sucks. And she's great because she's gotten the Jedi mind tricks now. So I'll kind of share my genuine self, and I'll be like, can you please believe that? Can you please co-sign that? Can you please just endorse that so I can feel righteous and holy and like I've got it all figured out? And she's like, you know what? I see where you're coming from, but I need this. I want this in my life. And I'm like, oh, I thought we figured it all out. I the guy that says, I want to live in the solution. Well, I want to live in the solution because I'm terrified of being the problem, of being in a problem. And that comes from a child that was rejected at birth. That comes from a child that bounced around different households. That comes from a young man that didn't know how to raise a family. The fear of rejection for me, and probably for others, is probably pretty deep in us. And that comes from posting on LinkedIn. And that presents as posting on LinkedIn. That presents as perhaps running podcasts. It presents in this look at me kind of mentality. And I participate in it, but I want people to look at me and see me and connect with me. And if they can't, they can't. But I want the ones that do. I don't want to have those deep relationships with you and be present in those relationships and really figure out who I am and they are and what we are going to be able to do. So yeah, water finds its level, and why I get why we worry, but fuck it, stop it.
I know. So have you heard the phrase? And I heard it a while ago, and it was a really good phrase, and it makes me kind of giggle. On the others, it says, behind fear is greatness. Right? So, and it's funny because I'm that personality type that just jumps. I pull the trigger. I'm like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And like, I mean, my whole family is like, Lisa, what are you doing? They're like, you don't have enough money in the account to be doing this. You don't have enough this. You don't have enough that. Like, if you've done the research, I'm like, fuck it. We're doing it. Let's go.
And I married that too. Like I have that, and she's live to the compulsive. I'm live to compulsivity too. What I learned with my own compulsivity is like, am I doing this because I'm going against fear, or am I doing this because it's a wicked dopamine hit to put a lot of pressure on my life? I wake up in the morning and I'm like, as a child, I woke up and I was terrified of what was coming through that door where I was. Whitney Houston would be playing. Odd story, but every time as a kid when I woke up and Whitney Houston was playing, there were literally dead bodies or drug zombies or things no 6-year-old should ever see. And for some reason, my mother played Whitney Houston on repeat, and that is like a huge trigger for me. You put Whitney Houston on the radio, I'm like, ah. Anyways, I live in fear, and I've been adjusted to that fear part of that fear or flight mentality. And sometimes what I do to get good kicks is I'll do something crazy, and I'll justify it. I'll rationalize it by saying, well, I'm going into the cave where the dragon hides the gold. I'm not. I'm doing something because I'm not feeling peaceful. I'll write my uncle a letter and say, by the way, I love you, but here's 15 things I need to tell you. And when I sobered up and I tried to make my amends because I had burned so many lives, the people I tried to make amends to, which is a big part of the recovery process, were like, no. And that was huge for me because it taught me that I can't fix the pain I've caused. I can't just scratch that off a list. I had to do the work, and I had to go into these relationships, and I had to forgive myself for hurting them, and then forgive them for not willing to forgive me. And I had to move on. And how that is manifested in my life, and that compulsivity going on to the other side of fear, which is greatness. And I love that quote. I take a lot of time making sure my intention's in line so that I'm not doing something for a dope kick or I'm doing something for integrity. And the letter that I invited you into reading, I wrestled with that for 3 years. Well, I wrestled with it. I was like, not good enough. I'm whatever. But I had this fear of not being good enough. And I really took its time before I acted on that. And the Jordan Peterson, who I'm a big believer pre-COVID Peterson, he talks about that Peter's dragon, right, hiding the gold, and we're all terrified. And sometimes we go in the cave, it's baby dragons. And Jocko Wilson, who does a great podcast, talked about that too. Mostly your fears are man-made in your head, right? But am I doing something to hurt others? Am I doing something because I'm selfish? Am I doing something because I'm feeling lonely, not being seen? And is my action actually because of fear, or is that some bullshit lie I'm telling myself because I need to feel better? And in my own business, I'll just share this as a ramble as I drink too much Tim Hortons today. In my own business, I'm like, am I self-sabotaging myself a bit to create this tension so that I wake up in fear every day because that's the only thing I notice? It's the only thing I know how to live, like the constant stress. Like, can I accept the good and just roll with it? Can I wake up in the morning and realize that, hey, the world's okay, man? At 47 years old, I shut my bedroom door and nobody's going to kick down that door today. And that messes me up emotionally because 47 years of thinking that, I was scared to wake up and getting through that. I don't have to drink to conquer the world today. I don't have to start a company and tell the world all about it. I don't have to fucking raise $1 million for some charity that just because I want to feel good. I just get to be me. That is that's where I want to be every day.
Yeah, well, we all have our own stories, right? And I know that. So when I was growing up, my dad was a tyrant, and some people would be like, "Oh no, I knew your dad. He was a great guy." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, live with him." When the doors closed, it was a different fucking guy, bro.
Yeah, right. Fuck. I think that's generational,
right? And I'm just like. And I've got like thousands of stories, and my brother saw it go through. My brother, I swear to you, like my brother's about the same age as you. And he's like, I don't, he's so funny. He's like, Elise, he's like, I kind of like threw a lot of that out of my head. Like, like my brother, he does not want to talk about it. I wouldn't call him a sensitive little soul. I would say that it impacted him so much because the first 4 years of his life, he was with my mother, and my mother, very calm, very sweet, very kind, kind of go with the flow, very popular in her own way. Like, she was like, a lot of people really, really liked her and sought her out, hard worker. So my brother is being raised in this quiet little atmosphere. And then my father, who's like this whirlwind of like hurricane shit, comes flying through the door. And so now it's all of a sudden he's trying to process why this person is so chaotic and so traumatic to him. And then I'm born, and my father's now part of the equation. I don't ever get my mom the way my brother got my mom. So now I'm just raised in chaos, and I'm the target because I'm feisty and I'm what they would call the black sheep, right? So if I'm pissed off or if I do, like my mom's like, don't do this. I do it. I was like, I'd look at you and I'd do it. I'd be like, what? And then my dad would come in. Now my dad came at me. My dad hit me. He beat me. He would, whatever he could find, he would fucking use to fucking smack me with, whether it was a piece of 2x4, a belt, a spoon, whatever he had in his hand was coming at me. And I remember I used to hide, and he was really mean to my pets. He would get me pets, and I was like, what, are you sadistic? Like, why would you get me? I love pets, but then you go after them and you beat the shit out of them, and I can't handle it. My heart, like, it's like, take it out on me. Like, at least I know I can handle it. So when I got older and I had kids, I don't hate my father. I was there with him. I held his hand when he took his last breath, when his heart stopped beating. My head was on his chest, listening to his heart stop beating. So it's not like I had this massively tumultuous, we're just a different type of resilience. So when you talk about resilience, I'm like, understand how much resilience we had in the 70s and 80s, the 60s kids. We have a lot more resilience than the kids in the 2000s. We understand that there is, for every action, there's a reaction, there's correlation, there's this and that, there's critical thinking, there's things that we have to go through. And even in our adult lives now, in our fees, we're kind of still processing that when there's a safe spot. And it took me a long time, Adam, because like you, I was like, when I finally got my house with my kids and it was just me, I felt finally for the first time, I felt safe. I didn't have to protect somebody. I didn't have to stand in front of something. I didn't have to be the battering ram. I was finally just free to just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a very weird feeling for the
Yeah.
first while.
The family
There
of
was waiting for the
origins,
shoe to drop.
the family origin story is, you know, and it's commonplace, I think, in our generation. I'm not sure of
Yep.
ages, whatever, but, and I don't know that the proper use of the word, but I'm going to try it out. The archetypal kind of father, and that was my grandfather, but to a big degree, my uncle.
Yeah.
And my uncle, who's a good person, and without him, I wouldn't be here today because he walked me into treatment and helped me through the transition of my mother and my grandparents passing. And he was raised a good family. My uncle was loved, and everybody adored him. But when I was a younger teenage boy, I didn't have access to that. Now I'd already started to burn down. I had done some things that would have hurt him at that time, and so I fully understand why his reaction was that. We don't talk. We haven't talked in years. He has not forgiven me for the sins I made before when I was drinking, and when I was done drinking. I was just making bad mistakes and decisions, selfish decisions as I go, finding my way. But that hurt, and I find it present in my relationship with my sons, but my oldest, who's really coming close to my heart these days, where I'm like, I love you just so much, and I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing and where you're going in life, and I have no idea what to tell you other than, can you mow the lawn? And you know, that kind of public greatness, private coldness is hard on my heart. And I'm learning the mistakes, not mistakes, but the way that they had it before, and that I had to endure. I'm learning how to change a little bit of that. Not all of it. My sponsors kind of like that too. We're like the same people. Like, okay, you good, love you, yeah, okay, hug it out. And so there is this heart opening of sorts, right? And I've been hurt. My mother hurt me. My mother, I'm a male survivor. She didn't know what she was doing. It was a horrible environment for a long time. I didn't realize the impact of that hurt. I owned it. I thought it was my fault until I got healthy and worked with other men about what that would do to a young boy, and how that's, to this point, I cannot be intimate properly with my partner, not properly, but in the way that I want to be. Anyways, when I came home from treatment, and I was guided to go find my mom, and I found her at the drop-in center, and I prayed. I was like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, this person hurt me. I ran away from this. Like, God, what's going on? And I could be with her in the last couple of years of her life, and got her off the streets, and still made mistakes and trying to figure out where we were in the world with our relationship, trying to do good and not doing good. And I was able to just be with them regardless of the hurt and pain, similar to what you shared with your dad. And my wife has a family of origin story that's very similar. And now I get to use what I learned there and just hold space with her on that. And I don't think it's because my resilience in the 80s and 90s is better than my son's resilience as a dad that broke up the family, and that generation of what I think is, they got it easy, they do, but I think it's a different resilience. I think it's more live. I think they want more out of life. And I'm excited every time we get one of these young guys to those coffee meetings, and we go into the vulnerability stuff, and they're willing to take a risk. They're a lot better at it than I was at 18. I was the tough guy.
That's fair. And I mean, for me, I look at it just as a different time. We're different. We don't have the same things. We weren't afforded the same things as the children that we now have. And so I think it's great that when you find a spot where you can hold space, like even I am on a journey where I learned to hold space for my children, where I couldn't before. I couldn't really hold space or understand the term of holding space for people, because I don't ever get people to hold space for me. And then when I realized that my children were actually holding space for mom, because it's a bit of a cycle that like we raise our parents and they kind of raise us, but they also say that you are the parent you needed now. And that's something that has always resonated with me.
Yeah, I like that.
You know? Yeah. So, and I think about that because I'm like, everything that I went through as a child, do I hate my parents? Absolutely not. Do I think they did the best they could? Yes. My mom still stands beside me. My mom she is my rock. She does a lot of things, even though she makes me fucking crazy, because as mothers, we install the buttons to push And she installed some that no matter what I try to do to get them out, I'm just like,
Yeah.
but I love my mom to death. My mom is, French, Canadian, and Irish. And, she walked through my critical illness. So I had breast cancer in 2022. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she stood beside me through the whole thing. She drove me to my radiation appointments. She sat on my side when I said to her, I'm not going Western medicine, Mom. I'm doing all I can on this side and then I'm done. I'm going over to naturopathic and I'm doing a lot of reading and I'm jumping down rabbit holes and I'm doing what I need to do to not only just survive, but to live. And show my children that if you put enough merit into fighting for yourself and fighting the right way and giving yourself the knowledge and nourishments your body needs, you're going to be fine. And she's a woman who worked in healthcare her whole life. And she was like, okay, I want to learn what you're learning. And I did. I told her all the different things and bought different things. I've got an infrared hothouse, or some people refer to it as a Soaky bed. And those are like $15,000. I mean, I didn't pay that. I had a lot of people in my little tribe of when I went through cancer that had put me in all these different directions. People who are owners of companies that have gone through the same thing, put me on track to get all of these different things into my life and all this different knowledge. But my mother, despite some of the decisions she's made that has made me a little bit resentful, a little bit angry, I wanted her to do better. At the same time, my other half sitting there going, your parents did the best they could. And I'm like, in my brain, I get really I get a little bit angry and I'm like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. The best they could, when we as kids are sitting there saying, do better. We need you to help us do this. We need you to help us do that. And they're like, well, whatever, we're going to do us. Like, I mean, for Christ's sake, we grew up in the generation of the commercial that said, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
I think it's cliche to put that on our parental figures to say, you're doing the best you can. And I get it. I don't have family of origin. The quick response is the hurt that I caused and the fires that I burned, and in their eyes still burn perhaps, prevents relationships from happening. And sometimes that happens. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Some relationships aren't going to work. Yeah. My reconciliation was with my mom. I reconciled it. I think I've done the work around my father. I try and embody the man that I thought my granddad was in terms of supporting my children. Mm-hmm. My grandmother, who did everything she could to make it happen at Christmas, is a mentality I bring to the family. But it's me. What recovery is for me is that I get to start my own family. And I've got 3 boys and 3 stepkids that I do care for. And I treasure any time I get with them. Each one of them have had some difficulties and will have some other difficulties. And I get to be the dad I want to be and the husband I want to be, that I can be. And it ain't perfect, but it is me. And what it allows me to do is removes the rear view thinking like, well, that's what they would have done, or what's how I did this because that's what they taught me. Like I'm over that. Mm-hmm. I'm parenting and loving those that I care for in my family. Yeah. The way that I believe I'm loving myself. No conditions, forgiveness, understanding, patience, all the things that I try and scapulate. I don't know if that's a word. Into my own heart. And Christmas for me is like nap time and football. I don't have to worry about the schedule. I've got a little bit of extended family on Erin's side that keeps us busy. I love working. I love learning. I love doing what I do. I'm accused of being selfish, and I guess I'll own that. I'm selfish in the pursuits of what is the right thing for Adam. And if it's the right thing for Adam, I can extend those to others. And I've retired from trying to analyze. Like, I don't know where I'm from. Like, mm-hmm. I don't have baby pictures. I don't know if I'm English or Irish or some other nationality. I don't know the exact nature of my birth. I don't know the dynamic of my dad's side of the family. I know nothing. And I love that because it allows me to know what the future is for me. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of like this pioneer of the heart, where I get to be who I am, and you can take it or leave it and love it or hate it. I've worked through some healing. I'm going to probably stumble on some more. My wife and I discovered some stuff recently with our family and our teenagers' mental health issues that really brought some fear up for both of us. I've got I call my wife the bank robber. She's willing to bury the body before she asks me what happened. That to me is a sacred kind of thing, even though it sounds pretty kind of
no, it's extreme. Ride or die. I love it.
Yeah, and you know that I got 2 puppies, or dogs, and a cat that has a mood swing a minute, and that's it.
That's cats.
Yeah, I got a chance, and so it's been great to share that. I'm proud of you for doing what you do and how you're doing it, and thankful that you're a part of our little network, and look forward to growing.
Absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate that. And you say a lot of really nice things about your wife, Erin. And I love that she is your rock and that she is not
I'm
scared
just
to
scared
tell
of
you
her.
what she needs to tell you. And you're allowed to be selfish, but she's the one that's going to come behind you and be like, listen, if I'm burying bodies for you, you better buck up because we're doing this.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and I love that for you because you need it. You need her. You need her and she needs you too, right?
yeah.
And so I think that when people can come together and just authentically love each other for who they genuinely are is great, because I mean, like I bust my other half's chops all the time, but he still comes back, so I feel like I'm doing something right.
And I would change the word on that. I don't think I need her. I certainly don't think she needs me. I think she's a very strong, independent woman, but we want each other. And there's a different dynamic in that. And I wish I knew that earlier in my life so that I didn't have to cause so much pain in my relationships. But needing, and I pray for my kids and other people that I support, mentor, help out, I don't know what you want to call it, that they understand that dynamic sooner than later, because wanting somebody and growing with sometimes changes and you become dependent. The needs come out, you have babies, you become very dependent of each other. And I'm at this state in a little bit of gray hair where I get this relationship that I want daily. And that's in a relationship with the spirit and God source, whatever you want to call it. I want that. I don't need it. Like I desperately want it. And wanting those things allows me a bit of freedom from the dependency of what would happen if they leave. And it would be hard if Erin left. There's numerous examples of how difficult that would be. And it would be hard if I didn't have the spiritual connection I have. And it would be very, very hard if I was drinking. But I
love that you said that. Yeah. I love that you said that because wanting it's monumental. Want, desire, this is who I'm happy to be with every day because I choose to be in it because I want it. Yeah. But there's still an aspect of necessity. Hear me through this process. Mm-hmm. Her energy, her boldness, your life experiences, and your desire to always want to be better are two things on a subconscious level that both of you know on some level is needed in each other. Yeah, she loves that you are very worldly in your own way and that you have these experiences and that you can talk openly about them and that you can heal and be this version of yourself. You're like a butterfly, right? So you've gone through all of these different things and you've become a butterfly. And she loves that. She loves that idea of you. And you love the idea that she's not scared to be like, listen, we're going to crack open this cocoon and we're going to go because we don't.
Yeah, there's a deeper.
You love that about her. And that's it's a bit of a need because if you didn't have a person in your life that was like, listen, they just gave you fluff and they enabled this, pity behavior. It doesn't work for you. You would eventually not want them. So there's a part of you that there's a little bit of a necessity there. Doesn't mean, but I love that you said that it's a want because I think that's what makes and breaks relationships. People get in because it's a high need versus us and a small want. If the want was higher than the need, there's a better chance for the relationship to continue to coexist and be fruitful.
There's a deeper sense of necessity for us both, but for me, is that she's not in the conversation.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to steal my time. There's a deeper necessity for a better life for me. There's the path not traveled that I've gone that way, probably by choice. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of pain through that. There's been a lot of loss, and there's been a lot of recovery and salvation and incredible gifts of that too. And that to me is that yin and yang, the good and the bad and of it all. And I'm just lucky to be able to share it. But the necessity, it's a deep and intuitive part of the soul. So I've taken too much of your time.
No, it's all good. There's just one thing I got. So when I introduced you on my podcast, when I first said that you were going to come on, what do you call yourself?
No idea. Frog kisser is like the latest one.
There you go. I said you call yourself a frog kisser.
Middle boy.
What does Erin call you?
Dating service for capital, which I'm not. Like it's cute. Dating service for ideas.
Dating service for capital. I love her already. I think she's great.
Yeah. And my son calls me the world's greatest emailer. I think that's a good one. And I just call myself in the hustle, man. Just trying to just keep it on and, right or wrong.
So you're all about networking. You network and you help people find each other.
I show up and I don't, yeah, I do. I just stay connected and then I export that.
And you are doing a Substack, and your Substack is awesome. So I love the title that you gave your first when you sent me the letter.
Yeah.
It's like a shitty first draft.
Yeah.
And then the background of the shitty first draft, just so you know, I want you to know that I thought that was fucking awesome. You know, because it talked about the shitty first draft is always going to be like the most honest.
Yeah.
Right? Like just send it out. And it's funny because my producer did the same thing to me. So I was like, I'm scared. I don't want to do a podcast. And he took like one thing and it was like, it was just me fucking around and he was like, done, launched. And I'm like,
yeah. And I'm curious and I'll offside that with you. There's a lot of neat things that you do and it might be something to do, but the Substack, the letter, the paid subscription wasn't to generate this massive income. Maybe in time it does. It's a business line, but there's so much thought leadership out there and ways to and how to's and DIYs it. And there's no shortage of people sharing that freely. And what I wanted to do is say, no, invest in this. Mm-hmm. It might not be worth the investment. I fully appreciate that, but invest in it. The equivalent of what I think breakfast is, which 1978 per month was my birth year. There's no magic to the number. And if you can invest in it, maybe you're willing to take those vulnerability risks to open up. Maybe not. It could be a complete miss. But when the world is free, when the world's going this direction, I like to go the other direction.
Yeah. Well, I like what you wrote in the Substack, and you're not wrong. And I use similar words, in terms of noise. A lot of noise. You can find things everywhere. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone puts their stamp on things. Everyone wants to do whatever they're doing. And it's just a lot of noise. And then some people, that's where a lot of people get misinformation because they're like, oh, well, this person said blah, blah, blah. And then they roll with it. Like if I could tell you how many relationships probably end because of social media, and it's true. And, like myself and my other half, we've had this conversation. He's like, social media is the devil. He's like, it wants you to question your relationships and question yourself, and not always in a good way. For all the good things that people are doing on social media, there's like 10 times more that just want to cause problems.
Yeah, there's a utility in social media. I used to love reading the newspaper, and I think people said, well, the newspaper can influence thoughts. Guess what? It can. And social media can influence. Yes, guess what? It does. But teach their own. And for me, using those platforms to stay connected. And I have a friend in Edmonton who I haven't seen in years, and man, got connected there and had a chance to, is that evil social media? I don't know if I become dependent on it. It is, but I have these little kids and they're starting to circle, which means they're getting ready for an attack, which means I got to go address them and parent them.
And thank you for being with us today, Adam.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you'll come back and we'll have chats about all the things that you do for your work and why you have all these cutesy little names like Frog Kisser or whatever.
Sure.
And your wife, dating service for capital. We'll have to get into that one eventually at some point. So thank you for coming and being a part of it.
You're great. You have a great day, and thanks to your producer as well.
Too. So hang on 2 seconds, and then I'll let you run away. Okay. So thanks everybody for being on the show. I think we've got a few more coming up next week in regards to. Let me think about this. I've got a surprise guest, and I'm not even really sure. I have to go do my research on them. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next, or being with you guys on the next Devil's Advocate show. As always, don't do anything crazy.